Are there any words sweeter in all of Magic the Gathering than the simple phrase, draw a card? There are few experiences quite as exhilarating as the magic, the mystery, the excitement of seeing what comes off the top of that deck. Wouldn't it be great if you could build an entire deck of just drawing cards? But as they say, drawing cards alone won't win you the game. Unless you're Niv Mizzet the Firemind. This is Metagame Mastery, and this is his Commander EDH deck tech. If you enjoy our content, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also, there is an affiliate link in the description below. Goes to Amazon. Any purchases you make there, a small percentage comes back to support our channel. Without further ado, big time! Go time! Let's go! First, let's take a quick look at our commander and our main kill condition. Niv Mizzet the Firemind is 6 CMC, 2 colorless, blue, red for a 4/4 legendary dragon wizard. He has flying, and whenever you draw a card, Niv Mizzet the Firemind deals 1 damage to target creature or player. You can also tap him to draw a card. This whole deck is built around that middle ability. We're going to take advantage of his trigger. We're going to draw our entire deck, shuffle it back in, draw it again, shuffle it back in, draw it again, until all of our opponents are dead in one shot. That's right, folks, this is a combo deck, so let's take a deep dive looking at our combo pieces. First and foremost, Curiosity is a 1 blue mana enchantment aura that we can put on Niv Mizzet. Whenever he deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. This creates an infinite loop that you can interrupt at any time because it's an May ability, where you have the ability to deal 1 damage with Niv Mizzet's trigger, triggering this, allowing you to draw a card, which in turn allows you to deal 1 damage with Niv Mizzet's trigger, and it just goes infinitely. We're also using Ophidian Eye, which is 3 CMC, 2 colorless and blue, enchantment aura with flash. So you can play it as an instant. Whenever an enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Exact same effect as Curiosity, works the same way. And Tandem Lookout is 3 CMC, 2 colorless and a blue for a 2/1 human scout with Soul Bond. That means you can pair this creature with another creature when it enters the battlefield. They remain paired as long as you control both of them. And as long as they're both on the field, each creature has, whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. So he's a creature who grants the same ability as the last 2 cards, allowing Niv Mizzet to just go into an infinite draw damage loop. Alternatively, we're running Mind Over Matter. It's 6 CMC, 2 colorless, blue. Enchantment, choose and discard a card, untap target creature. We're using this in tandem with Niv Mizzet's tap ability to draw a card, allowing us to discard a card, untap Niv Mizzet, tap him again to draw a card, use that card to discard, and untap him, repeat that process infinitely. Of course, in order to go truly infinite, we're going to need to put cards back into our library. And that's where Kozilek, the Butcher of Truth, comes into. He is 10 CMC, 12/12, Legendary Eldrazi. When you cast Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, you draw 4 cards. He has Annihilator 4. None of that's why we're actually running this card, though. Our goal is not to put Kozilek into play, but to take advantage of his last ability. When Kozilek is put into the graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles his or her graveyard into his or her library. So that's very important because it's a 0 mana effect. It's a replacement effect that allows us to just pitch Kozilek out of our hand and refill our library so that we can continue this infinite damage loop. And just as a backup plan, we run Laboratory Maniac. He's 3 CMC, 2 colorless and a blue for a 2/2 human wizard. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. So if for whatever reason we can't burn out our opponents, that's fine. We'll just draw our whole deck and win in the process. This is a backup plan because if somebody has instant speed removal and you're relying this as your kill condition, they can kill him in response to that last card draw effect, and you just wind up killing yourself. We're also running another infinite combo involving Isochron Scepter. It's 2 colorless mana for an artifact that has imprint. That means when it enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand. You can pay 2 mana, tap it, and you may copy the exiled card. If you do, you cast the copy without paying its mana cost. And there are actually 15 great targets in this deck that you can put on Isochron Scepter just to get a ton of card advantage and repeated value off of those spells. But the one that I'm talking about specifically that goes infinite with Isochron Scepter is a new card called Dramatic Reversal. It's 2 CMC, 1 colorless and a blue, instant, untap all non-land permanents you control. So if you have Mana Rocks, Mana Dorks, etc., that tap for at least 3 mana, that's your goal, is to have at least 3 non-land mana on the board. You can pay 2 with this on an Isochron Scepter that has this imprinted on it. Tap it, untap, putting this on the stack, which in turn untaps all those Mana Rocks and the Isochron Scepter, leaving 1 mana floating. And you can repeat that process infinitely. And this deck's all about the card advantage. So let's take a look at our card draw / card selection effects. First up, Brainstorm. Getting a beautiful new redesign in Masters 25. It's 1 blue mana, instant, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. And we're also going to run some other great efficiency cantrips like Ponder. It's 1 blue mana, sorcery, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library and draw a card. Preordain is 1 blue mana, sorcery, scry 2, then draw 2. Serum Visions is 1 blue mana, sorcery, draw a card, scry 2. And then we're going to get involved in digging in our deck, because this is primarily a combo deck, so we can draw ourselves out with our regular spells, but our main goal is to get our combos online so we can just go infinite and win the game right then and there. Impulse is great for that. It's 2 CMC, 1 colorless and a blue, instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. There's also Fact or Fiction, 4 CMC, 3 colorless and a blue, instant. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles, put 1 into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Future Sight is 5 CMC, 2 colorless, blue, blue, blue. Enchantment, play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library. This is super efficient. Not only does it add effectively another card to our hand, but at the same time, each card we play off the top of our deck replaces itself. And Treasure Cruise, or the poor man's Ancestral Recall, as I like to call it. It's 8 CMC, 7 colorless and a blue, sorcery, that has Delve. So we're not going to pay that 7 colorless most of the time, because each card you exile from your graveyard while casting this spell pays for 1 colorless mana. Typically, you're just going to exile 7 cards out of your graveyard that you just have no use for, maybe extra lands, whatever, and pay just 1 blue mana, draw 3 cards. And Dig Through Time is 8 CMC, 6 colorless, blue, blue, instant. It also has Delve, so typically we're just going to exile 6 cards out of our graveyard and pay 2 blue to look at the top 7 cards of our library, put 2 of them into our hand and the rest on the bottom of our library in any order. We're also running an extensive tutor suite because this is primarily a combo deck. We're looking to get Niv Mizzet on the board on turns 3, 4, or 5 and win the game on turn 6. Gamble is just straight up value. It's 1 red mana, sorcery, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random, and then shuffle your library. This card is super efficient. There is a risk associated with it, but the risk goes down based off of your hand size. So in a deck like this, where we're basically going to have a full grip all the time, this becomes very, very reliable. Mystical Tutor is basically a must in every blue deck. It's 1 blue mana, instant, search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal that card, shuffle your library, and put that card on top. Merchant Scroll is a little bit more direct. It's one colorless and one blue sorcery. Search your library for a blue instant card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Dizzy Spell is one blue mana instant. Target creature gets -3/-0 until end of turn. That's not why we're running this card. It also has Transmute. That's one colorless mana, blue. Discard this card, search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your library, play this only as a sorcery. One of our key combo pieces is Curiosity. It has the exact same mana cost. So this is effectively another copy of Curiosity in our deck. Same thing goes for Drift of Phantasms. It's 3 CMC, 2 colorless and a blue for a 0/5 spirit with Defender and flying. But our goal is not to play this as a creature. Instead, it has Transmute. 1 colorless, blue. We can discard it, search our deck for any 3 CMC spell, put it into our hand. So what we're looking for here is Tandem Lookout and Ophidian Eye. This is just another way for us to get our combos online. Long-term plans is a great tutor, very underrated. It's 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a blue for an instant. Search your library for a card, shuffle your library, and then put that card third from the top. That's important in the fact that if we're drawing cards or we have a draw 3 spell, like say Brainstorm, for example, we can just go ahead and get that card right away. This also works tremendously well with cards like Sensei's Divining Top. We also run a variety of wheel effects, not only to refill our grip, but to act as discard outlets for Kozilek, so that we can replenish our library, continue our infinite loop, and win the game. Winds of Change is 1 red mana for a sorcery. Each player counts the cards in their hand, shuffles those cards into their deck, and draws that many cards. What this allows us to do is once we've drawn our entire library, shuffle it back into our deck and draw it all over again. Windfall is 3 CMC, 2 colorless and blue for a sorcery. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards player discarded this way. Not only allowing us to discard Kozilek and replenish our library, but at the same time allowing us to get caught back up if for whatever reason we fall behind on card advantage. Jace's Archivist is 3 CMC, 1 colorless, blue for a 2/2 Vedalken Wizard. You can pay 1 blue mana, tap her, each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards on player discard this way. So, if Windfall was good, being able to do it every turn is better. Reforge the Soul is 5 CMC, 3 colorless, red for a sorcery. Each player discards his or her hand and draws 7 cards. It also has a miracle cost of 1 colorless and a red. It's a great alternative to Wheel of Fortune on a budget. Time Reversal is 5 CMC, 3 colorless, blue sorcery. Each player shuffles his or her library and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. Exile Time Reversal. These type of wheel effects are very important because they replenish our library on their own. So if for whatever reason we don't have a discard outlet or Kozilek in play, we can still keep our infinite loop going, enough to finish all our opponents off. Time Spiral is the exact same thing as Time Reversal, only better. It's 6 CMC, 4 colorless, blue for a sorcery. Each player shuffles his or her graveyard and hand into their library, then draw 7 cards. You get to untap 6 lands and you exile Time Spiral after use. This is effectively free as long as you have enough mana to cast your commander. Awesome. And we also have a little bit of a Spells Matter theme going in this deck because our goal is to essentially storm off. So cards like Firebrand Archer get us great incidental value. It's 2 CMC, 1 colorless, and a red for a 2/1 human archer. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Firebrand Archer deals 1 damage to each opponent. And Guttersnape is 3 CMC, 2 colorless, and a red for a 2/2 Goblin Shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Guttersnape deals 2 damage to each opponent. Young Pyromancer is 2 CMC, 1 colorless, and a red for a 2/1 human shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 red elemental creature token. So because this is a combo deck and we're typically just trying to dig through our deck as fast as I can, we wind up falling behind on board state. Young Pyromancer is a great way for us to mitigate that and develop our board state for just doing what we do anyways. Talaran Sky Summoner is 4 CMC, 2 colorless, blue for a 2/2 legendary Merfolk Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. This is the same thing as Young Pyromancer, only the tokens are bigger and they have evasion, so they become an offensive weapon as well. Reverberate is red, instant, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this is a great card, not only allowing you to double up your own card effects, but at the same time, you can copy your opponent's card effects, such as their removal spells or even countering their counter spells. Great card to put on your Isochron Scepter and just be able to do this every single turn cycle. Twin Cast is the same thing, color shifted for blue. It's blue, instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is a great thing to put on Isochron Scepter. Now, in order for us to combo off, we need the mana to do it. That's where these ramp cards come in. Sol Ring is 1 colorless mana artifact. Tap it to add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. The most efficient mana ramp spell you can possibly get. It's a staple in Commander, and as the professor would say, because Sol Ring. High Tide is a card that you probably recognize from a lot of Legacy play. It's 1 blue mana, instant. Until end of turn, whenever a player taps an island for mana, that player adds 1 blue mana to their mana pool. Just a really powerful way for us to get mana ramp so we can continue storming off. Thought Vessel is the perfect mana rock for this deck archetype. It's 2 CMC for an artifact. You have no maximum hand size. You can also tap it to add a colorless mana to your mana pool. Izzet Signet is perfectly on flavor here. It's 2 CMC for an artifact, pay 1 colorless, tap it, add a blue and a red to your mana pool. Not only is it mana ramp, but it's color fixing, which is actually super important because our combo pieces like Niv Mizzet and Mind Over Matter are super color intensive. Sapphire Medallion is 2 CMC for an artifact that says blue spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast. Medallions are great in this type of archetype because as we storm off, this gets us additional value for each single card we play in a turn cycle. Same thing goes for Ruby Medallion. It's 2 CMC. Artifact, red spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast. Coalition Relic, which is also being reprinted in Masters 25 with gorgeous new alternate art, is our key mana rock in this deck because it's 3 CMC for an artifact. You can tap it to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool, but you can also tap it to put a charge counter on it. At the beginning of your pre-combat phase, remove all charge counters from Coalition Relic. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool for each counter removed this way. This allows you to go from 3 mana one turn, hit your land drop on the next turn, and drop your 6-drop, which just happens to be the same casting cost as Niv Mizzet. Also, it's color fixing in addition to mana ramp. Goblin Electromancer is 1 blue, 1 red for a 2/2 Goblin Wizard. Instant and sorcery spells cost you 1 less to cast. He's just another medallion for when we want to storm off. You probably recognize Barel, Chief of Compliance, from competitive EDH play. He's absolutely oppressive in one-on-one Commander. He's 2 CMC, 1 colorless and blue for a 1/3 Legendary Human Wizard. Instant and sorcery spells cost you 1 less to cast, and whenever you counter a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So not only does he give us the Goblin Electromancer ability with a more flexible mana cost, mind you, but on top of that, he gives us the incidental value of getting free loots. Curious Homunculus is also a good efficiency card. It's 2 CMC, 1 colorless and a blue for a 1/1 Homunculus. You can tap him to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. Spend this ability only to cast instant or sorcery spell. So he's mana dork, but only when we're trying to storm off. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 3 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, transform Curious Homunculus. Well, since we are a Spells Matter deck, he's going to transform very quickly, very easily. And he becomes Voracious Reader. He's a 3/4 Eldrazi Homunculus with prowess. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So he's a bigger, more powerful Goblin Electromancer that actually grows as we cast our spells. Very efficient, very good card. Now we do run a counter suite in this deck, not because we're a control deck, we are primarily a combo deck, but we do want to stop our opponents from getting their threats online while we're still setting up our combo. So we run cards like Swan Song. It's 1 blue mana for an instant counter target enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 blue bird creature token with flying. So this is a hard counter to protect us from having our combo interrupted at the super efficient mana cost of only 1 blue mana. Along those same lines, we're running Dispel. It's only 1 blue mana for an instant that counters target instant spell. This is great for protecting our combo, preventing it from being interrupted by either removal or being countered itself. Same thing goes for Spell Pierce. It's 1 blue mana, instant, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2 mana. Of course, there's always the more reliable Negate. It's 2 CMC, 1 colorless and a blue, instant, counter target non-creature spell. Not even giving your opponent the opportunity to pay 2 blue mana. Always good to get those hard counters in. Speaking of hard counter spells, we gotta run the OG counter spell. 2 blue mana, instant, counter target spell. Can't go wrong. Buyback takes that same concept and turns it up to 11. It's 3 CMC, 1 colorless, blue, instant. It has a buyback of discard 2 cards. Now, buyback is an older ability that's from Tempest Block. You could pay an additional cost when you cast the spell. In this case, discarding 2 cards. If you do, this card goes back into your hand rather than your graveyard when it resolves. This card counters the spell. So in this deck, because we have so many cards in hand, we can consistently discard 2 cards when we cast this, canceling an opponent's spell, and putting it back in our hand so we have another counter spell for the next turn cycle. And at the same time, this is an additional discard outlet for our Kozilek the Butcher so we can refill our deck. Counterflux is 3 CMC, blue, red, instant, can't be countered by spells or abilities. You counter target spell you don't control, or you can pay its overload cost, which is just 1 more colorless mana, and you counter each spell you don't control. Mystic Confluence is a very cool card. It's 5 CMC, 3 colorless, blue, instant, choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. First mode is counter target spell unless its controller pays 3 colorless mana. Second mode, return target creature to its owner's hand. And third mode is draw a card. Typically, you want to cast this as a counter spell that draws you 2 cards. Super efficient that way. Also, in a pinch, you can counter a spell, bounce a creature, or bounce a creature and draw 2 cards. However you need to do it, this card has super flexibility. It's always the right answer. Now, Misdirection technically costs 5 mana, but typically we're going to exile a blue card from our hand rather than pay its mana cost. So it's effectively free. And what it allows you to do is change the target of a spell with a single target. This is a great way for us to protect our combo when it goes off. And we do have a small removal package. We run Pongify. It's 1 blue mana for an instant, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Its controller gets 3/3 green ape creature token onto the battlefield. So this is just super efficient. 1 blue mana, destroy a creature, replace it with a vanilla creature that we don't care about. Same thing goes for its functional reprint of Rapid Hybridization. 1 blue mana, instant, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Its controller puts a 3/3 green frog lizard creature token onto the battlefield. Also running for super efficient purposes, it's Chain of Vapor. It's 1 blue mana for an instant, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. This is one of very few ways we can interact with non-creature spells on the board. That permanent's controller may sacrifice a land. If that player does, he or she may copy the spell and may choose a new target for that copy. Since we're going to have very few permanents on the board, this is typically will be used against another opponent, just allowing us to get additional 2, 3, 4 for 1s. Snap is 2 CMC, 1 colorless and blue, instant, return target creature to its owner's hand, untap up to 2 lands. Great with High Tide and Isochron Scepter. Of course, what EDH deck would be complete without board waves? They're super powerful and vital in multiplayer format. First up, pulling double duty is Cyclonic Rift. 2 CMC, 1 colorless and blue, instant, return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, just acting as cheap spot removal in a pinch, but really we're running this for the overload. It's 6 colorless mana and a blue to return each non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. Straight up, one-sided board wipe. It's widely considered the most powerful card in all of EDH and the most played card in all of Blue. Definitely a must-have in this deck. Along those same lines, we have Mizzium Mortars. It's 2 CMC, 1 colorless, and a red for a sorcery. Mizzium Mortars deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control. It also has overload of 3 colorless mana, red, red. So what we could do is overload this. It deals 4 damage to each creature we don't control. One-sided board wipes are always nice. Blasphemous Act is super efficient. It's 9 CMC. Don't worry, 8 colorless and a red sorcery. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. So if there are 8 creatures on the board, it only costs 1 red mana to cast this. It does 13 damage to each creature. Super efficient board wipe. It's the most played card in EDH for red. It's an absolute must-have. We're running a copy of Washout. It's 4 CMC, 3 colorless, and a blue for a sorcery. Return all permanents of the color of your choice to their owner's hands. Because we're a 2-color deck, 60% of the time, this won't even touch us. And this is particularly effective against token armies. Evacuation is particularly powerful. It's 5 CMC, 3 colorless, blue for an instant. Return all creatures to their owner's hands. This is super cheap for instant speed board wipe. Also particularly good for you to play at the end of an opponent's turn, and you get to gain tempo advantage by being able to play your cards right away on your turn. Some final notes. I do run Blood Moon. I think it's a great efficiency card, stalls out the board, and can take over the game all on its own. It's 3 CMC, 2 colorless and a red, enchantment, non-basic lands are mountains. Reliquary Tower is the utility land that you absolutely need for this deck. It makes it so that you have no maximum hand size, and it doesn't even enter the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. Super efficient, can't be countered. Love this card. Perfect for this deck. I'd also like to take a second to address the elephant in the room, because I did make some notable exceptions here. First up, the Locust God. I know a lot of people see this and they think, wow, it's like a new Niv Mizzet. And in a lot of ways it is. It's got additional durability, but it doesn't interact with our combos at all. And therefore, it doesn't really synergize with the deck as much as you might think it does. It's a great card in its own right, don't get me wrong, but it's really more of a build around, and he deserves the focus of being put into his own deck. Psychosis Crawler, you might look at it and think, wow, it's like having the redundancy of an extra Niv Mizzet in the deck. It's easier to cast at being only 5 colorless mana. The problem with Psychosis Crawler is it doesn't interact well with wheel effects. Anything that makes us discard our hand, he becomes a 0/0 and instantly dies. So that, in addition to the fact that it's an artifact creature, so it's vulnerable to artifact removal, and lastly, its life drain effect doesn't interact with any of our combo pieces, really makes it so that more often than not, this is a dud draw. And that's our Niv Mizzet EDH deck tech. If you enjoy our content, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also, in the description below, we have an Amazon affiliate link to pick up Masters 25. A lot of these great cards are being reprinted, so if you're looking to pick that up, any purchases you make, a small percentage comes back to help the channel. This has been Metagame Mastery. Peace!